I used to know the world. Seas would rise when I came to work. In the morning I sleep alone. Sleep at the streets where I used to walk. I used to know the wilds. See the people in the enemy's eyes. Listen to the crowd and sing. How the old king's dead and there for you. Used to hold the key. Now the world closed down me. Instead of everything's the same. On Phyllis' song, Phyllis is singing. I hear you listen to bells in the wind. Oh, and cavalry choirs sing. My man, my soul, I should be to the forest. For some reason I can't explain what you thought I was never this world never found will be. Does it get wild when the doors are left? I remember when the sky through the building where I could come. I wish I knew this way from my head on a silver plate. But I'm alone in the street. Who would ever want to be? You can lose the bells in the wind. And cavalry choirs sing. I'm never my soul, my sheep. For some reason I can't explain. And I'm saying, oh my, never know. That was what I really hear you listen to bells ringing. Cavalry choirs sing. I'm never my soul, my sheep. I should never be for some reason I can't explain. And I'm saying, oh my, never know. the morning the sun was shining. He was laying in bed. The one she dreamed of. The folks they say lost to me. Sure was going wrong. They know like mama's home dressed up his bed. Wasn't big enough. He was standing by the side of the road, falling on the street. For these cold, slow notes was dancing. She was married when they first met. So he made the divorce. He helped her out of the jail. My boss, but he was a little he got the forest for you. He slept on the dark side. She told me I loved him. He was overwhelmed. You celebrate. You again someday. She got a job at the North Police, working as a cook for the squad. He looked like it all, and much one day he had sex. So he took it down and out. He was happy to be floor, but oh, I wish we were upside down. Just get the last sacrifice. She's standing there and I can choose sometimes. Sometimes like when she's standing right on my face. Just a minute of the night. She back in my face. She offered me watching me say no, she said she'll let the sun time. She nothing every book she was inviting each other from the 13th century. Like that before. My soul. down the road, I'm looking for another joint. Your words to me, so just something Greetings, friends. How you doing? I'll leave it there with the two for tonight. I won't sing my usual My Heart in Lute. So how you doing? I hope those two songs came across okay. The first one, not too good. I was trying to give a sort of a lower key version of it, and I can do a good job of it. Sort of much slower down version if you don't know what it is. It's Vida from Coldplay, and all these bands are put in place, and they're all sort of clue givers in a greater sense. That's the way I look at it anyway. But that song itself, yeah, it wasn't quite as smooth as I'd like it. Let's say that would just take one or two. So the second song was used to sing "Tangled Up in Blue" with the finishing line. I'm still on the road heading for another joint. We all joined, right? A joint connection. We always would feel the same. We just saw it from a different point of view. So this has been emphasized again and again. Yeah, so I hope that came through okay. Everybody started to turn down, and I think it probably helped from a little bit back from the main microphone. As I'm playing here, I'm just looking. Let me show you the screen I'm looking at. Just the way I'm not looking at myself and in sort of self-conscious, even though I don't mind looking at myself, I think I'm looking okay tonight, actually. But don't you know, that's true the old beer god. But cheers, friend. It's a shandy. It's a beer with 7-Up, by the way. Yeah, I just thought I'd do an impromptu thing. I'm going to put the chat in, or the link in chat immediately, because I'm not going to sort of do hours on end. I don't think that, it's not that it doesn't work. It is what it is, right? At this stage, what is what, and getting into what is. Yeah, I've been thinking about pi more and more, and its overall sort of significant to everything. And it's been always there. It's been lingering and lingering. So I just thought I'd speak openly about it and my thoughts. I don't sort of gather my thoughts or structure them anymore. I don't write them down. I don't sort of put down. I just keep a notepad. If something occurs to me and it relates to something, I'll write it down. But the notepad is so sort of befuddled and long and extended at this stage. I don't sort of go into it because any one particular area I get distracted and I just go back into that area. Ultimately, this is what I'm talking about. I think everything comes back to a simple core and the heart of matters. And this is where pi comes into it, or at least my sort of thinking on it. It's the representation the transitional representation, I guess, from the immaterial to the material. So yeah, generally I just came on to speak openly and see where my thoughts go on this. So, you know, um, that'll be the starting position. But as we're coming towards the the end of something, you have to be a fool not to see that we're coming towards the end, some transitionary point. Well, maybe all of this is what it's all ultimately about. And like children, we must become. So when we think of pi, we think of a relationship between the very simple line and the circle. Draw the sun, my darling. You know, draw a circle, draw the land, they'll draw a line. The children do, right? But there is a core relationship, and I think as the thinking mind immersed in these times and this differing context, and this is a differing context. You have to get the flat Earth to consider these things properly, and I'm under no illusions that I've asked it many times. Where are all the gurus, all the people who led you here? Remember the time before and after Conspiracy World? Think about all the research you did and just the different paths you took, the different hurdles you climbed, different conspiracies you made your way through. Where are all the gurus when it comes to flat Earth? We're all flat Earthers here for the most part, even though, well, it's the words we use. What do we mean by that? That's a different story. But yeah, where were all the gurus? They vanished. They all rejected, like they were repulsed from flat Earth. I can't think of one of them along the lines of my journey here, anyway. And the biggest one, Simon Shack, who the most open mind you'd ever meet, because when you're considering media fakery and news, north, east, west, and south, and these words are very important as well. Letters themselves chosen to represent the idea, right? And the idea transitioning between, I guess, the reality, the material reality, and the immaterial thought itself. So north, N or TH, N or TH. N is the letter of division. We are born into sin. So it's within these basic offerings. I guess that's the way. It's a sort of description of a reality in the language that you're brought up in. So I've often spoken about, I was thinking about it today actually, and because someone else mentioned it, and it was, our venture into this experience here, this foreign land, taught a foreign language, fed a foreign food, and how far back can you go? I mean, I just speak for myself as always, and not to repeat or not to dwell on a point for too long, but yeah, I can go back to the very beginning, and that's what I would consider it. It was almost the very beginning, when I had a coherent thought, and I had an awareness, and I knew what I was thinking, and I knew what I was asking. I had no language in me, and I know I can't have been more than a few months, a couple of months in the palm. I sort of confirmed that with my mother as well. So yeah, from then on, I'm almost completely aware on a minute by now basis. So yeah, ultimately a different game is in play here, and when it comes to the language that we're presented with, is it arbitrary? Or is there a greater structure of coherence behind it all? Well, you know where I stand. It's all crafted. It's all crafted. All languages are composed of words. Words are composed of letters. You could say all, right? But for the vast majority, it's a sort of transfiguring. It's a bridge between the thought, the idea, and the reality. Now, if the reality is known, well, then we are in the midst of a different reality than what we told, right? And we were always told, a certain way, formal education brings us to inexorable conclusions So once we move away from that and move back to more basic questions, connections, well, let me see, it's all scripted, or at least we move forward in our search with that understanding that it has to be scripted. And it's then that all of the different clues jump out, and no bigger clues to be found than in the letters use the basic form of communication and transference. In the beginning was the word, right? The letters express the word in a different format. But what is the beginning? And the beginning of what? These are deeper questions as well. Where do we come from? Where are we at? For me, again, I'm just talking to myself tonight because I'll get onto the pie, but everything does connect back to pie. This is what I'm bringing it back to. Very basics of our thinking, our understanding, our reckoning, and this core relationship between these two divergent aspects. A circle is a line in a sense, and a line is a circle. But how do we define both? First of all, you have to start with the definition. It's my thought process, and especially to Adrian. How do we define both? And how do we go about establishing a fixed relationship between the two? And of course, this is where pi is described as a transcendental. Carl Sagan described pi as listed pi as the number of God in one of his short novels, science fiction novels. There's this sort of core relationship between these concepts, I guess, and the concept in the mind of man, which is male and female. But yeah, and getting to that, it's the ultimate relationship between male and female. When we think about what is zero represents, but I'll get into that in a minute. I put the link in chat in case anyone's interested in a chat, and I think that would help as well because it's good to bounce ideas around, and you never know when you're going to get your next sort of clue. I guess if you're looking sort of for the perfect environment to try and work out what you're thinking, you have to have patience and the foresight, I guess, to plan something towards a certain goal. But I never had a goal really, and here we are in 2020, which my opening comment was 2.88 mushroom. How you doing, man? My mushroom. My opening comment was 2020 is 88, right? Because, well, it is in a sense, everything is 8 in a sense, but it is specifically in terms of clock face. And 2000 hours is 8 o'clock. The clock face itself representing the 0, the minute, the hour, and the second hand, all representing divisions. The closer you get to estimating pi, right? And at this stage, it's down to an endless. I suppose because it's a transcendental, it never repeats itself. There's no pattern to be followed. So you need endless time to describe it fully. You couldn't do it. There'd be no ending to it. No matter how small you got, you'd have, just with extra time and extra computing power. Which ultimately the computing power amounts to, what I'm thinking now is the number of lines that you draw to compose a circle. So imagine you drew, let's say, 6 lines of equal length from a center point. Well, then a shape would form. The more lines you drew, right? This is about squaring the circle as well, to get a fixed basis for being able to calculate the area. How much space does a circle take up? How much space does a square take up? How much space does a cube, a sphere, etc. take up? So when it comes to a circle, how do you? I'll talk about this in a bit. I'm not going to get too deep into it just right now, but just my thoughts Ultimately coming back to what are these things? What composes these things? Where do they come from, and what do they represent? So that'll be my general sort of chat to myself about that, and see where it goes. I won't stay on too very long. I might play a couple of songs a bit lower because it's after midnight here, close to one actually. So yeah, there's a link in chat. Let me put that in again. Let me just see the YouTube is coming through. Okay. Okay, yeah, it seems to be so. There's a link in chat. Join, Dank, join. You've been you calling it. You've been on the scenes for ages. Join. Anyone's free to join. Again, I think the topic will, just for myself anyway, unless it goes somewhere else, I'm going to be talking about pi and what that means to me. Pi. I've been talking about one player as well. That we are one player in this game, or IP. IP. What does the P represent in relation to the B, right? So everything is about this divided nature of us. So we have the immaterial base, right, which is the thought center. And we have the material base, which is the gut center. This is why Einstein was purely based in the thought center. Brilliant, right? Einstein, one stone, one S tone, one TH. So he was purely based. This is where we need to go. If we go downwards, we're bringing the H down into the L. So we have the central spine and the lower base for it, down to the bottom of the well. So understanding this connection, and it's a literal connection as well. Everything is sort of true and not true at the same time. So yeah, our brain, we're divided. Our brain is and our intestines are inside out inversions of one another, and that doesn't take a big leap to consider the possibility or to embrace the possibility somewhat. But yes, when we come to reading the story, then Einstein obviously is a fabrication. He's been thrown under the bus now, and Tesla has been brought to the fore in glaring terms by the likes of Elon Musk, and who's in the news recently. And it's very funny. It's very funny, Elon Musk. And I was just thinking, an elephant. Just from watching some other programs, I just any YouTube suggestions, suggestions from Africa. An elephant on Musk, and I was thinking about this before as well, I think, but an elephant on Musk's MUSTH, right, is a sexually sort of energized young bull elephant, full of the joys of horny life, right? So you can imagine that's hard to handle. But Elon Musk, or Musk, right, MUSTH, and his SpaceX. How long have I been saying you can't say SpaceX without saying SpaceX, right? And now he's involved in some sort of sexual. I don't know anything about it at all. I just assume it's sexual. When is a woman involved? Whatever, it's all theater. But what's the correct word? I'll think of it. Imbroglier. Now that's a fucking good one off the top, just that came to me. I knew there was a nice word waiting there. I actually wrote a song with that word in it. This unholy imbroglier. That's the opening line. That's it. Fucking hell, I haven't thought about that in years. This unholy imbroglier has found me in a tizzy. That's fucking hell. But yeah, Elon Musk. So Elon Musk, right? And El is the Jewish God, and this all connects as well. It all connects to pi, but El is the Jewish God. And there we have the bottom. You see, E, the whole E. We're divided into these three aspects. The division is twofold. First of all, male from female, and then self from self. So whole E, spirit, in the name of the Father. We've been told the immaterial Father. Everything came to being out of ultimately the thought. Or in the beginning was the Word, but what good is a word without a thought? So we have to make some certain connections ourselves, and have a great. Honestly, I think it's great because it connects absolutely everything. It connects the greatest questions, and I'm sure that pi is everywhere. As Adrian has been trying to say, Tesla's truth for so long, right? And I always said it, Adrian. It's sort of like I know the significance, but I'm not relating exactly the significance you're placing on it. I'm sort of wrapping my brain around it, that everything is revolving around pi. And I use that word as well, revolving, because what I relate pi to in this material sense, it's a sort of immaterial relationship, an endless relationship when it comes to, on paper, the mathematical exploration. When it comes to reality, what is a relationship between what is the three-dimensional equivalent of a line, and in well, the same with a circle. What's the three-dimensional equivalent in reality, or in our reality as we perceive it, or as it is crafted? It's very significant as well, and especially in terms of my thinking when it comes to, well, Aristarchus. Let me show you something that I was just looking at while I was singing there. Don't you know it, friends? He couldn't get a few minutes. But, a few minutes. Yeah, without mentioning it. But that's what I was looking at. And see the symbol for infinity? You have to see it, don't you? You have to see it in the center. I'm not telling you what to see, but I'm not going over this again because I've gone over it already. But ultimately, yeah, this is what I've always been talking about. I mean, this is all an illusion. So when we're looking at this crater Aristarchus right from the moon, but this is all an illusion. These are reflective illusions. What does it come down to? In my own brain, it comes down to the very center here, the very center, which is, well, the one, and it is the sperm as well, which is how we all come to be when the sperm meets the egg. And when this connection happens, then we have sparks flying, and then we have this whirling. We have this whirling existence. In a sense, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, we're expressing the moment of creation. And I think against the backdrop of our immaterial nature, this is all important. This context. And once again, coming away, when you place yourself in an infinite universe, which I did, well, then you're a million miles away from truth. But maybe you're closer than what you know as well. Because truth can't exist without the lie. This is the nature of the experience we're having here, which, look, I'm nearly 50 already, 48. I'm up on 49 next year. And it's unbelievable. I don't even know what time is anymore. The whole year is gone already. Against, well, some supposedly constant reckoning, but nothing is constant. Nothing is constant. They've got everything wrong, but purposefully. Purposefully. Everything you've been told, flip it on its head. Everything you've been told as well is metaphor. It's like the different layers. When they talk about the common masses or something, the profane. This is not a holy. This is about sort of understanding levels. So most of us go along with the official story, the official truth, but written into the official truth for those who ask the questions. Well, the greater truth is revealed, and how is it revealed best? Well, through the lie. It's only via that contrast that we can sort of come to appreciate, well, what's the real story here being told? And we certainly know there's more to the story than flat Earth, right? So, well, it's only within this context that we can look at images like this in a different light. And you might be used to seeing Aristarchus on its side like that. As I've said many times, look at the clues that they present within this article itself. I didn't mean to bring this up. I was just saying that's what I was looking at. I opened up a new set of tab here just for the hangout. But the article itself, what is it? Where the 1st of the 6th, 2012. It's very significant as well. 2012 happened. Here we are coming up to December 21st, 2020, which is exactly 8 years after December 21st, 2012. I remember exactly where I was with my son Stephen's mum in a park, in an isolated park in Ennis. And well, I reckon it all happened now, 8 years later. It comes to fruition, and 1221 or 2112, 1221 is ABBA, and it's very interesting as well. ABBA, to be or not to be, in the opening description. So this is the ultimate question that we're left with the works of Shakespeare. I always say it connects with the Bible. Is the question that we're left with, the riddle that we're posed in Revelation 22, which is regarding the number of the beast. And I should bring up the quote. Anyway, I'm not going to, but I think those two are ultimately connected because, well, we're after coming to flat Earth, we're after coming to fake news, we're after coming to fake history. So, well, how far do we go back with trust? You know, you name a date. I can't go back very far at all, but beyond a certain point, you have to give up a different faith, I guess. You have a faith. There is an understanding that there's a different story being presented, and it's getting to the bottom of that story. Well, this is the greater, if you want to look upon it, that's a quest that we are on. So coming to look at this greater on the moon, which is no longer a quarter of a million miles away. It's our nearest neighbor in this enclosed flat Earth system. So within it, it is, in terms of potential or possibility, loaded with clues if only we have the eyes to see. But yeah, let me just show you a different orientation of that because it will be clearer. I'm telling myself to stay on topic as well. After all, I am talking to myself, but I see this the same topic everywhere. Let me just okay, I can't find the. I just drew a few lines, and that'll do that. There it is in a different orientation. I wish to hang on that. There we go. Here we go. That's it orientated differently. It's very easy to see the 8 here as it expresses, right? But the idea being generally how it relates, how pi relates to reality is because something is expressing from a 0 point. And this is what a circle, this is what everything begins with, a 0 point. Let a line, let A be a point. And after that, then everything follows. You have to define exactly what a point is. When it comes to, just in general, the broader argument that math is reality, well, if we ask for clarification, when everything in geometry reduces down to let A be a point and all theories or theorems follow from that. When you ask for the definition of what a point is, you're given an instance of 0 dimension. Now, if everything on all math is based on that, and the resultant, I guess, can be used to define reality, describe reality, list reality, however you want to equate it. Well, where can we find this equivalent in reality where there's a point of 0 dimension? So we can't. So in one sense, one cannot relate to the other at all. But here we go. When we go beyond the official story, there is an intimate connection. And ultimately, that intimate connection, which is, well, I didn't get to mention, which is the third center point, which is the heart. The heart, which is the bridge between the immaterial and the material. And here we are in the middle of flat heart, the flat heart arena, the flat earth arena. They're not anagrammatical for no reason. It's not incidental. And like I often point out, ether, so we have earth, ether, and heart. The bridge is established between the external and the internal. And how is it established? Well, via the word, right? Via more specifically the letter, because every word has significance, and every word is composed of letters. Therefore, the greater significance lies within the letter. This is why A is the apex, right? A, everything's relation to the H. And when I think about H as well, the capital H, and as it's presented to us, H, human, and H being the eighth letter. I'm trying to think to myself, I've said it many times as well, when I'm presented with a two-dimensional image, like on screen here, for instance, we're sort of encouraged to naturally three-dimensionalize it. So you're told this is a crater, so you're trying to sort of decode it in a sense, and look, there's plenty of decoding to be done. As you zoom in, this is mesmerizing, these images are, they can be. And if you don't think so, well, you just haven't got the context right. Yeah, you don't know what you're looking at then. If I was to say to you, every layer, every single layer here is the same as every layer beneath it, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. This is Aristarchus, by the way, and this is its sort of upright orientation as you would view it with your regular notions of the moon as it arrives in your local sky. Well, this is more so in the northern hemisphere. But as we rotate the moon, you would swear this extends inwards, right? It's a crater, you've been told, after all. So there's a premise for your thinking established. But as we rotate that 180 degrees, now you would swear that it's projecting out of the screen. So like a mountain top. But the deeper layer again, understanding that every layer is the same as every layer above or below it. So it's a hall of mirrors, Alice through the looking glass. You see how it transformed? And this is not just on paper here in two dimension. This is in reality. If we look at the moon, we locate the crater, and here we see it at the start of the night. Oh yeah, definitely. I bet my house that's distending inwards, and then at the end of the night, or even halfway through the night, I'm not sure. And then at the end of the night, you see something different again, right? Definitely extending outwards. But ultimately here is this relationship between the thought and, I guess, the thought on reality and the reality. This is where the zero comes in, and this is where the relationship between the one and the zero is paramount. And, well, of course, as I have Aristarchus on screen, our greater Aristarchus, the man Aristarchus, brought us heliocentrism. So we have the H again, and we go downwards. So we have an E at both sides and potential. The E is the potential. Right? And first of all, is the recognition of the component parts and how it relates to you. The U, right? The UN is a good one, actually. The UN, United Nations. And think of the little U and the little N, they both combine together to give an oblong O anyway, but a certain unity, a united nation, right? UN. N being the divided letter. This is very interesting as well. We're born into sin, S-I-N. We've been told you're S and you're N. So where does that leave you? Well, When we came away from heliocentrism, given to us by Aristarchus, which is a basis for a material-only existence, which denies the zero, all there is the one, everything is countable, everything is determinable. And I talked about just briefly Laplace's determinism, that if you could, and just how my memory, just thinking back to my thoughts in it, but if you could locate at every single instance, if you had the computer power, if you just had the ability to locate the positioning and the velocity of every single particle, every elementary particle of matter, which at the time was assumed to be atoms, well, then you could determine with 100% precision the exact future of everything. You know, if you had those capabilities. So this is the deterministic, and this is the ultimate outcome of the material universe, right? So this was given to us for consideration by Aristarchus to Samos when we realized the man didn't exist. Well, then within the name itself, clues are going to be crafted, and no bigger clue than the place he was decided to be from, which is Samos, S-A-M-O-S. So S-O-S. There we have the O in the center. So the two dividing aspects. So we need to unite as a nation, right? As opposed to divide, because we're already in that divided state. So yeah, when you think about an S and a connecting S, David, VISS, we have the ISS and all its controversy. I actually think that, you know, all of these different obvious fakeries and frauds, it's not about the things themselves, it's about the words themselves, our familiarity with the words like ISS. You know, when we understand or we see the significance of what's actually been said, because we can see through the literal, but then it will all make sense. So yeah, ISS, when you connect the I with S in the S in a reverse fashion, just combine them into one another, you get the 8, the I8. And that's funny, BMW have an I8, I think released in 2014. 8 is the H letter, 8 is the H is the 8th letter, so it's IH as well. And the most basic of greetings is, well, hi. How you doing? Hi works in any language. And I'm actually just thinking, if the standard salute was, that's funny now, isn't it? It wasn't the standard telephone salute changed from hi to hello at some stage. Probably more subtly than let's say the emergency number was changed to 911. So yeah, so that's an interesting thing now. Just as long as you hear it, then you have it within you, and it's going to resonate somewhere inside within you, you know what I mean? Because remember, it's all about your brain, your mind coming to terms with everything that's been presented to you. If there's a greater mind, a greater power behind everything, then we were always meant to make our way along a certain pathway towards, well, the greater truth. TRUTH, right? And TH is the S tone, right? Pronounce it. And it's simple, it has to be simple. It has to be simple and it has to apply to all. That's the way I look upon these things. And well, yeah, fundamental is the context. So coming away from heliocentrism, where everything goes downwards, right? So the H goes downwards, the crossbar drops. So you bring the two divided sides together, the crossbar drops, and you get the L. So H-E-L-L, helio, heliocentrism. And when you go upwards, well, the H, the two divided sides, and the crossbar goes up, and you get the TH. H-human. So we have the option to H-human to go upwards to the T, which is T-human or TR-human, or you can go downwards to the L, as I say, the L-human, the lumen, the fallen light. And I think everything connects. And the more simpler it gets, or the more basic the word, the more encoded it is, to be or not to be. I am, you are, he is, she is, right? IS, ISIS. So ISS, actually Jesus, right? JSUS. You and I are one. Mount Meru, me are you. So JSIS, right? Instead of SUS, JISS. We just switch them around a bit. And then Je is French for I. So we have IISS, or is, or I8 squared. Yeah, so it's this transitioning. This is what I think is pivotal. And of course, while Aristarchus expresses in a circular fashion, it's a spiraling, as I picture it, it's a spiraling fashion from the very center to the very hardcore. And remember Iron Man, Tony Stark, and he's I was not going to say solar generated, but he's whatever nuclear generated heart. Tony Stark, yeah. But yet everything emanating from this 0 point. And yeah, again, coming away from Aristarchus of Samos, or coming to realize the greater script or the greater threads that are connecting the different Aristarchuses. Yeah, this leads to a singular 0 point center. I think in the center here is this Mount Meru. It could very well be. Let me bring up a clear picture. Is this Mount Meru, the divided tree itself? Here we go. That's the central peak of it. Is this the thing that's doing the expressing? Ultimately, I think the sperm and the egg are inversions of one another. So it's when the two divided aspects come together that we have this great spark. And ultimately, that reflects on our greater sort of divided aspects. Imagine being connected to your male or female counterpart, and that collective energy just flowing consistently. I mean, like someone mentioned it recently, like the continuous orgasm, just in complete awareness and existence and bliss, I guess. But yeah, is it getting to the heart of matters? Just recognizing that whatever is written down on paper has a mirror in this manifested reality. I think so. I think so. There has to be a purpose to things. And well, you tell me what you see here. I have loads of different, just to show you I'm not talking through my arse, because I do all this stuff in my own comparisons. I have loads of different comparisons. The latest one, actually, let me show you. The latest one is the crater on Mars here. So let me just show you what I was thinking, my thoughts on it briefly. So crater on Mars with a smiley face, and that just was brought there from the Watchman. I said that looks a bit familiar, and I knew it was. I knew I already did a video, a silly video. I mean, there's people much more skilled than I am, but I sort of came to the basic core conclusions. But yeah, I was going. That rings a bell here. This little image at the side, or little outcrop, whatever you want to call this. So that rings a bell. And here we have. That's what I brought up. Crater prints here and a neighboring aspect. Very similar. Very, very similar. And I went further than that down and just on the moon it can be found. I'll show you where I think it can be found on the moon. Let me show you briefly. Yeah. Should do.
Oh yeah, so I'm just giving you a general idea. Look, saying, oh yeah, so this area here, for me, is this area here. So a slightly different perspective. You're looking more, yeah, but it's just about equate. Now you can't quite see this down here, but this is basically down along this rim here. And no better definition than images of the moon as well, which are the same. But yeah, that's just something I've been looking at recently. But yeah, this connection between everything that we're seeing and everything we're trying to piece together, and everything we're told for that matter, which is laden with lies, of course. Um, yeah, is there a greater connection between everything? And of course, yeah, I do say there is Aristarchus, the tree of life, and I think within their presentations, they're offering the truth. It's just about us coming to the right terms. That's what I think. The right terms, and this is where pi comes into it as well. I mentioned the one player earlier on. We're one player in this game, one p. If we look at the p in relation to the b, right, where you have both sides connected, the upper and the lower through the heart center, and that's one half of another b. That's when we connect the other b, and the half spine, which is the backbone of the b. Well, butterfly jumps out immediately, doesn't it? But another thing jumps out as well, which is 8, an 8 with a 1 down the center. So that's very interesting. If you read it from left to right or right to left, it could be 818 or 818. And getting back to this image here, that's just, by the way, look into that yourself. I'm nearly positive that this is the same representation. So you're gonna go, well, how is that? Well, look into it yourself. That's all I'm going to say to you. Is the moon itself here? Look, that's called a smiley face on Mars, by the way. And here, I just says again, I was just looking at a suggested video on the Watchmen, which is a movie. I remember seeing it back when it came out, and it was just a shocking, impactful movie. But yeah, smiley face on Mars, and immediately the topography, if you want, was familiar to me, and this is where I zoned in on. And ultimately, that's what I reckon. The nearer the planet, right, nearer the planet to, as described, to Earth, the more zoomed out it is. So the moon is pretty much zoomed out. And then as you get to the furthest planets, like Neptune or Pluto or Saturn, that is sort of more zoomed in aspect, that you're seeing. And this sort of ties into my thinking of what we're looking at here. So this is Mars, a massive area in Mars. It's a much smaller area on the moon. So it's a more zoomed in aspect. But yeah, that's just a by the way. As I go back to Aristarchus there, well, so many things are to be seen here. And just as I was going to comment again about the green sky, the unbelievable green hue to the sky. It's just there all the time now. This is to the night sky. And well, I'm still thinking along the lines that I think that the barrier is reinflated, and now the aurora borealis has come to us. The Eden has come to us. Daniel Field gave a very good expression, which was aurora borealis. Alice in Wonderland. Alice Starkus is a new Starkism. And I don't know why I didn't think of that first, right? But yeah, it's a pathway we've been led on. But yeah, as you're looking at this, you might see something very different, and you're definitely going to be seeing something very different than what I see. But I talked about this in a previous show about this being the all-seeing eye here. This is what's been expressed, and this is what has been referenced. And well, pay attention to the clouds, my friends, and it's there in abundance as well. If you can't make out the eye of providence in your local clouds, because I know that this your same cloud pattern that you are privy to, it's the same for me. It's we're in this enclosed, very enclosed system. You can go out tonight and behold half the universe, three quarters of the universe actually. Just go up to a local hill, and you'll be able to see much further beyond the equator in terms of the sky, in both directions. So you could see half of the universe. That's how up close and personal it is. All it would take would be something in the center moving slightly, and suddenly you have an expressive pattern. It's like a flashlight, and the closest to the wall as you were spinning it, or something like that. You know what I mean? That sort of idea, and that's what's going on. That's what's going on, and all the skylights are reflections, or reflections ultimately of this here, what you're looking at. And that's even not even that, you know what I mean? As I say, I think ultimately it's this central peak that's doing the expressing, which is the tree, the divided tree of life, Yggdrasil, Mount Meru, and everything then is being expressed from that. Now, what dimensions are now? I don't know. This is a delving into the other realm in a sense, isn't it? I don't know. There's all, yeah. Even though we're in the heart of the material here, this is the very core, the root of the material, and all material expression. Yeah, there is that greater immaterial aspect to everything, which is, well, where we come from. So, yeah, this is what the zero ultimately represents. And right. So as you look at the screen here, you can see the age, right? There's not, there's loads of, you can see the capital G as well here quite easily. But you can see many other things. You see these three stars here that look like the orientation of Orion. Orion's belt. Actually, now that I mentioned Orion, Sirius is back in the sky. Wonderful. Sirius. When we bring the S and S together, then we get the 8. And yeah, as I'm talking about the 8, yeah, can you not see the 8 here? Can you not see the 8? And if you think about the spelling of the 8, E-I-G-H-T, light, L-I-G-H-T, might, M-I-G-H-T, night, N-I-G-H-T, when the darkness comes, the dividing time comes, night, there's the significance of the N, and keep going yourself, and well, see letters in a different light altogether. We have the upwards or the downwards, the upward bias or the downwards bias. Actually, think about the 8, and we go upwards. We get to the 9, right? We forego the lower bias, get to the 9. When we are immersed in the lower bias from the 8, we get to the 6. And well, how do we get there is the question. Anyway, so you're not going to be seeing what I see, but what do you see yourself? Ask yourself. And yeah, when it comes to behold, I come up with the clouds, all eyes will see me. God has appeared so many times in the biblical account, anyway, through the clouds, right, or through something that to do with the atmosphere, whirlwinds, or clouds in general. And we're warned, or we're told in the very start of Revelations, behold, I come with the clouds, all eyes will see me. Well, for me, this is because there's a certain central pattern emanating. And how is it emanating? In a circular fashion. Everything moves in a circle. Everything, all the stars are circular as well. We just have looked at, if we've been given the constellation, right, and it makes it look so disconnected. But we just haven't considered things in the right light. Everything expresses in well, actually, that's another interesting circle. Getting into practicality and theory, right? The circle is impossible from one specific perspective. If I was to draw a circle, it's only from my particular perspective of viewing let's say 90 degrees directly above it, that I can vouch for that being a circle. The minute I vary from that pole axis, right, then that circle is going to appear askew, ultimately an ellipse and disappearing into nothing then, but how does that transfer into reality? Well, this is how reality is defined. Something is moving in a circle, and all I can do is express my own thoughts on it. I know there's no one else talking about Aristarchus, specifically Aristarchus, is showing you a picture of not just the tree of life here, friend, the universe. That's what I say this is, the universe. Everything. When we look at the moon, and I talk about different, every crater being one crater, yes, everything is ultimately a reflection of this one aspect, much overlapping, much different sort of perspective, views. There's a kaleidoscopic expression of the same thing. And well, this is Polaris as well. This is what is expressing primarily in the form of Polaris. And Polaris then expresses primarily in its focal reflection as the sun and the moon then are direct reflections. And well, I think Venus is a direct reflection of the moon. Then you have all of these secondary, tertiary reflections going on, and this sort of great motion, great ballet in the sky. It's not because the Earth is moving itself and the sky is stationary. No, the sky is moving, and the surface we're on is stationary. And again, that different context, well, changes everything. And ultimately, once we can identify the center point, the emanating source, which is the 0 point, the very core of the apple, well, then then we've honed in on ground zero. Yeah. So yeah, it's this relationship I primarily have in mind. And when you think about how you would draw a circle, what would you start with? Get down to the very basics. You start off with a center point, and you draw a line, and you rotate that line. This would be the radius. You could double it. You could double it around the center point, and just rotate it a half a revolution, and mark every point along the way, and connect those dots then to get that circle. But ultimately, that circle comes back to a series of lines, and especially then when we're trying to find out the relationship between the circle and the line, well, the greater accuracy is decided by the greater number of these such lines that you can spin, I guess, to create all of these different points, which can be joined for the circle to form. Do you know what I mean? And polygons, it's basically inscribing a polygon within the circle and getting a definitive area for it. So the greater the number of sides, the greater the detail, I guess. That's what it is. The greater you can, the further you can see, the deeper you can calculate. Actually, it reminds me of the water droplet that I've told the question so many times. I mean, how many times can you cut a water droplet in half with all of the finest instrumentation possible before it stops being a droplet of water? Is there any end to it? And of course, with pi, there is no end, or there is no defining, definitive. And that doesn't do in math as well, does it? There is no definitive answer. You can never get to the answer, which is the ultimate relationship between the line, the one, and the zero. I was mentioning the clock face earlier on. When you divide 60 by pi, you get 19.09. I thought that was interesting, and especially considering how significant 19 is the eighth prime number. Here we are in 2020, which is 19 years from 2001 when we had 9/11, where 2 became 1, and 11/9 went to 1/9. So the 2 becoming 1, the 2 divided aspects becoming 1. Kid A was the soundtrack to 9/11, and well, A is 8, which is 1 or 11. So the equation being made as well. So yeah, that's what the squaring the circle is ultimately about. It's getting that definitive relationship between the area, the space, a square can take up, which is easily calculable. We have the square on screen here almost, so it's easily and linearly calculable. But what is the relationship between that square and the circle? And well, ultimately that square can be reduced to, well, a line, and ultimately what can a line be reduced to? A point. So a line ultimately becomes an infinite number of points, because any 2 points, you can always draw a midpoint between that line. So when we think about possibilities, and it says an infinite number of possibilities, well, the symbol used for infinity is not incidental, it's innate. It's a twisted 0. Depending on your orientation, look, as you see it on screen here, let's just twist it the other way, the way it appeared in the link. Here's the lemniscate. You see it? It's clear as day, absolutely clear as day. You can see how it's sort of this aspect of it mirrors it as well. I remember I was talking about every layer being the same as the layer beneath or above it. But yeah, so how does everything, why does, well, once again, getting back to Aristarchus, or coming away from a material only base reality, a countable only base, you're reintroducing the 0 into the equation, and not denying the 1, but at the same time not defining the 1 too well. Yeah. What is this 0? What is its story? Which is ultimately what our story is, because we can all agree we are more than the material. It's funny as well, body, B-O-D-Y, you're one body divided, body and body, B and B, B-O-O. When you connect the 2 O's, you have the 8. And so that's what I, so yeah. When we think of a capital letter H, so I was saying, yeah, this is what started me off in this. So when we look at a crater like this, we sort of have a certain context for it. We go officially, right? So we have well, this is solid structure, solid hollow on the moon or near its neighborhood. So we have a certain context. So our eyes take in certain information, and our brain makes sense out of it then, and presents a certain order, coherence to our understanding here. But when that context is changed, and then everything changes, and it's almost hypnotic, actually, the image here. You also see the SO in the center. Soul, S-O-U-L. But anyway, yeah, it's when the context changes that, well, everything, the universe changes. So out of the O, everything comes. So what's the relationship between the O, which is the 8, and the O? Well, that's simple enough. You just twist it once, right? You twist the O once to get the 8, lemniscate, which is the symbol for the all, the infinity. But Well, infinity is just a series of ones. It's an endless series of ones. You can never get to the end of it, but ultimately it begins with one, the countable. So this represents the material, one. This is what the square as well represents. And this is why the one is the man, I think, and the zero is the woman, because if you think about the protruding parts of the man and the lacking that is within the woman, I think that is that greater relationship. Bye bye, Miss American Pie, American Pie, right? So it's like the more they, I guess, in a sense, beat their chests and say, look, we've established pi, we've established a relationship between this immaterial and the material to this level, which is to whatever, to billions of decimal places. Um, yeah, this is how far we've come to, this is how close we've come to defining God, this material, immaterial relationship. But the catch is, of course, no matter how close you come, you'll be equally as far away because you can keep going on forever. Nothing repeats. So, in a sense, that ultimate relationship ultimately remains unknowable or unknown. Maybe this is what is represented in pi as well. And yeah, it's very interesting. But in as much as what can be known, well, then can everything be scripted on the basis of that truth, that fixed relationship? I mean, pi 3.14. I'm happy enough with three. I'm happy enough with three decimal places because that gives the ultimate answer, which is 42. 3.14 to 1 is relationship. To three decimal places, 3 is the magic number. 3 is the Mason number. 3 is also, when you combine the two, you get an 8. And yeah, I'm happy enough with three decimal places. And that gives us 42. So it's the ultimate relationship between, I guess, coming back to God, coming back to this higher immaterial powers, immaterial nature to our existence. And of course, it flies in the face of that determinism, that close to achieved determinism that Laplace talked about. But then again, once we see through the theater, I got my THs and my T mixed up there. Once we see through the theater, then, well, we know there's a greater story. And, well, who's writing all of this? Whose hand does it play? I say it's the hidden hand, the HH, which is the 8-8. So the ultimate sort of conversion or relationship between the H, which is made of straight lines, right, with the capital H and the O, or the 8. So H is the 8th letter. And when we look at the capitals, as I was getting at with TT, right? So when we look at the capital letter H, we think in terms of 3 dimensions. I can see 2 T's coming up either side, right? And that's how it would appear as I'm looking into it, like the Google screen share, you're looking into infinity. So the 2 T's, the 2 separate towers on either side, giving the illusion of connectivity, that there's an ultimate divide. But yeah, the TT then representing pi, the symbol, and I can see it on that level. That's mad, isn't it? Well, in terms of I said it, spring and fall, something is moving. It's the spiral of life, and this is reflected throughout all things material. And our body is that material, but we have the spirit as well. So it is that relationship, and these relationships apply to all of us. We've heard of the golden ratio, phi, and how it pervades all living organisms. Well, why is that relationship in place? It's because this is applicable to reality. It is something defining our reality, our material base for reality. But there is that immaterial aspect, which is the thought center, THOTH. Yeah, should I have other thoughts now? Yeah. Honest to goodness, this image is hypnotic. It's hypnotic, and I know any image can be said to be hypnotic, but yeah, there's a different context now for it. Yeah, right. Let me just go back here again. This is the I. So if everything is emanating from this, from the center, as it sort of spirals. Remember, a spiral is just something moving in a circular fashion as it moves up and down in a linear fashion as well. This produces a spiral. So yeah, we know coming to flat Earth that something moves and something appears to have the sky moving in unison. That's how it appears to us on a moment by moment, day by day basis. There are transitions, or are someone was talking about, what was it, the transit of Mercury over the sun. It took many hours. That's how slow moving everything is. But once we consider this more enclosed, reflective screen aspect to what we're looking at, well then, circular motion, or apparent circular motion, is the order of the day. Where is the source of that? Well, at the very center, tree of life. Makes sense. And how is the tree of life expressing? Well, in the spiraling fashion, the spiraling, look at the yin and yang symbol, and the different layers, the tree rings. Yeah, you can look at this as a tree ring as well, can't you? Look, There's so much to be found in this. I didn't bring this. I was just looking at this. This was just up by accident, really. But nothing's by accident. Look again. I remind you, pay attention to the clouds. Pay attention to the sky. How many of you can in chat? I'll go into chat shortly. Who wants to have a join? But how many of you can say that you've noticed a green hue to the sky? Because if you haven't, well, I don't think you've been paying attention. And I reckon it has to be everywhere. Well, Nathan Oakley said he's seen it, and he was out with his daughter looking at it. So something has changed. But yeah, pay attention to, it's not just one eye, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So yeah, it's ultimately, it's what I think the pie represents. It's this expression of everything from nothing. And yeah, once we see through the theater, all the information that's presented to us in terms of the main body of science, well, it all becomes metaphor. It all becomes, I reckon, it's not just blind tomfoolery. Some just going along blindly with an initial idea that they know to be wrong now, and they're just taking it to its fruition. No, there's a greater scheming behind all of this, and well, I say that greater scheming is this great game of life, this great game of revelation. That well, we all have our part to play, and certainly anyone listening here will have come through. Who knows what you've come through? Who knows what you've had to discard in terms of dearly, closely held truths, to come to where you are now and understand that nothing is as it was presented. What do we make of what actually is? Well, to be or not to be. Yeah, and that's the puzzle presented to us in Hamlet. I say, once again, well, maybe I didn't say it tonight, but yeah, the Bible, same hands wrote the works of Shakespeare, same hands wrote the works of Lewis Carroll, same hands in play with the works of the Beatles. It's still in play right now. It's the hidden hand, the emissary of the greater power, I guess. I don't know. The controller of the script. But the script is written, and the script is definitive, and the script is written long since from the very outset. The end is set. That's the way I see it, and yeah, the clues are laid before us. The clues are laid before us in the form of an Ouroboros snake eating its tail. Look at that, my friends. You see it? Snake head here, right? See it? Just a coincidence, right? And remember, I was talking about different layers. There's the same snake head, just a bit lower, and then it's going down into the abyss, into the great abyss, until you come to the heart of matters here. But as we turn 180 degrees, as you see through your own experience with the night sky, hang on, that's jutting up towards me like a big cock. Excuse my language, but it's close enough to the truth as well. That's what I think. Everything goes back to the tar. Here we are, Aristarchus, right? In the very heart of Aristarchus, we have the tar, T-A-R, and the T-A-R is the semen. Make no bones about it. Make no bones about it. That's what it is. Arise, tar of Cus. So this is ultimately how we got here. This is ultimately, well, what's encoded within all of the talk. The body of science gives us. The Big Bang is a reference to the sexual act. I talked about our origins and how they have it pinpointed down to the microsecond, the picosecond, just after the Big Bang, but they can't get right to the heart of the core of the anomaly. So, yeah, but they can't tell you that everything came from nothing. So the 8 came from the 0 via a singularity, which was the 1. So going back to the relationship between the 1 and the 0, when you twist the 0 one time, you get 8, which is the infinite. When you keep twisting the 0 an infinite number of times, then you get the 1. But ultimately, all stems from the 0, and, well, yeah. Yeah. It's difficult to express the thoughts sometimes. You have a clear thought, and you say, "I'm going to express this now," but oh man, yeah, that's what I do. I gather my thoughts. This is an interesting orientation here, just like this. The not you see, I can see something very specific here, because I think everything is reflected in everything else. When we leave that determinism, like the evolutionary determinism that in the past and future, at cosmological certainty. When we leave all that behind and we see through to the shallower layers, in a sense, yeah, we realize that we're not separate from the greater story of the greater universe. We're an integral part of the greater universe. One thing is reflected in all things. So let me just say this break. Well, I hope as you were looking at that, if anyone's looking at it, that what you might have seen would give you grounds for deeper investigation and consideration. But I really do think, when you think about it, the reason we were sold the solid body moon is we were sold heliocentrism, as the story goes, right? So the greater universe at large there, and well, the skylights are not as they seem. They're not skylights. They are solid bodies in space emitting light for whatever reason. And yeah, this is what we were sold. And of course, as no one pays attention to the moon anyway, myself included for years. Even still now, I don't go out with my telescope around, and I don't do that. Everything and any experience I have with the moon is visual. And yeah, it's not that it would never have occurred, but the context was pre-applied, and therefore everything was viewed in that context. Just assumed it was solid body. Now, I said the moon is a reflection of solidity, and therein lies the rub. And when we think in terms of this reflective sky, we think of a barrier separating Earth. Well, is there a definitive layout to the land according to these basic ultimate principles? And well, Adrian says there is pi Earth. He talks about. I sort of agree. I agree. There is this express relationship between the 0 point of expression, the source, this magical source of expression, if you want, the tree of life's epicenter, Mount Meru. Come on, how else? How are we going to relate to it, right? So it's this sort of, I guess, it's that point of singularity. Fucking hell, yeah, it's that point of singularity. Where the nothing comes in to the everything, or transforms to the everything. It's mad, isn't it? Because I can never relate to this in real terms, but now coming here, I can relate better than ever in real terms to it. As I said tonight at the outset, I'm just talking to myself mostly here tonight, so don't be worrying about that. But let me go in just to see if there's anyone who wants to come for a chat. If you do, let me know. Hang on. 2.88 Mushroom Series, definitely jumping in. Hello, man.
Hey, Pete. How's it going, Pete?
Hey, man. I hope you weren't here too long waiting on me.
It's okay. I'm busy doing a load of stuff at the moment, so yeah, it's fine. How you doing, man? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Let me stop sharing here. Screen sharing. Yeah, not too bad. Just waffling away there. Not really. I said at the start I was just sort of more talking to myself than anything else. But yeah, man, I don't think we've spoken one-on-one before, even though I do remember speaking with a few other people. And was it Jamie Brown's?
I can't remember now. I do remember it. I can't remember where it was specifically. Yeah, it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Good few years ago now. So.
We'd have a great chat, man. I mean, where are you at in all of this? I mean, just generally. I mean, I know you're more fixed than ever in terms of your own worldview. No one can deny 2.8 mile high mushrooms or the greater sort of structures imposed on the earth. But where are you at in general these days? Have you moved on?
Where am I in general? Well, that's a bloody question, isn't it, mate? What a question
well,
that
have you
one
moved
is.
on to deeper, you know what I mean? Deeper rationale behind what you're seeing. Do you know what I mean?
If I was to say to you that where I am right now is after about was it about 2015? I think no 2014. I'd say when I got the 432 mystery. I'd say well, in all that time, what's happened is that I've gone all the way around, merrily, all the way around, and now where I am is right back to square one, where I began in the first place, which is Carlos Castaneda, The Art of Dreaming. Yeah, it turns out I've been doing sorcery all along without quite realizing it. So that's where I am right now. I'm back on actual sorcery again, but this time it's a little bit different. It's all kind of making a little bit of sense this time around, if you know what I mean. The reason I've popped on, Pete, I actually have a specific purpose for popping on today. I've got something for you. I've got something really special for you. I don't know if Adrian is still in the chat. I know Adrian was kind of curious. So if you just give me a couple of seconds to prepare, I've actually got something all set up specifically for you. If you give me a moment.
Nice one, man. Let me just say, I haven't been into chat, so everyone's welcome. I'm terrible. I know I have no structure to anything. I have no greater presentations to make. And in a greater sense, it's just a man expressing his thoughts, right? But I do come to look upon all of this as a greater arena. And as the truth is already known, you know, I don't sort of take that pathway. I'm trying to make my way towards it and through it and expressing it as well. And sometimes it helps me just talking out loud. And even though there was not much coherence in regards to what I was saying about pi, definitely a few things occurred to me.
You're very good at what you do, Pete. Don't understate yourself, mate. You're very good at what you do.
It's so involved, though. You know what I mean? And you know what you were saying, going back to the start again. Completely appreciate that, man. I mean, we're dumb adults in a big sense, but I don't know the real context you're talking of, but I can sort of grasp it as well.
That's what I'm here to show you. That's what I'm here to show you.
Okay, nice one, right?
So what I have to show you, Pete, right? You remember 2001 Space Odyssey, right?
Right.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me just move the cursor. Off you go.
Do I have to do anything? Do I have to share your screen?
Yeah, you remember 2001 Space Odyssey, right? You remember the obelisk in 2001? Sure. Right, well, look, I don't know if you can see this on the screen right now. Hold on, let me, I've got, clear up the screen a little bit.
If you share your screen, yeah.
I've got an obelisk right here in my hand. I've got a very special obelisk. I don't know if you can see it. It's black, it's rectangular. It's about the size of my hand. I can lift it with my hand like this.
You mean monolith? Just to say.
Monolith. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Monolith. Sorry, I've got obelisk on my brain from the alien obelisk in Utah. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry, monolith, not obelisk. Yeah, sorry. Correct me on that one. Okay. That's what I've got here. I've got a monolith, right? And I've had this monolith for about 6 weeks now, and I've been waiting for just the right opportunity to crack this thing open, and twice now I've been on your stream. I've heard you talking about 88. You know, the significance of 88, especially regarding where we are now at the year 2020. Okay. And this is the perfect opportunity to crack this monolith open, and that's what I'm going to do.
Before you do it, give us a little bit more context here. I mean, do you know what's in that package?
I do know what's in it. Yeah, I bought it. I did buy it from eBay. Yeah, it took me a while to track it down. Actually, I couldn't remember what the bloody. Yeah, it took me a while to track this thing down. So yeah, it is something that it's something very, very special indeed. It's something quite remarkable, actually. You're going to really, really appreciate this one. Hence why I'm bigging it up so much. Sometimes you get people big things up, really, really badly big it up, and then it turns out to be a disappointment. Well, this is the opposite of that. This is the kind of thing.
I know some of the levels and the layers you're at. You know, so if you think it deserves bigging up, definitely.
It does. Yes.
Let me just say, when you say monolith, I mean, I could talk for about a half an hour on this, but immediately comes to mind 2001: Space Odyssey, of course. but 9/11 as well, with the Millennium Hotel, which was a monolith, and well, the whole Stanley Kubrick association with 9/11, which I say Stanley Kubrick faked his death, and him and the rest of the top directors were all involved. So there's a greater story and a greater significance to the monolith. And just to connect it, 2.88, monolith is one stone monolith. One stone.
Oh, Einstein.
Einstein. So there's one stone, and I say that's the philosopher's stone, which is the TH, the S tone. So the journey upwards, which is what the monolith represents as well, which is the great advancement of the kind through whatever intervention. So that's my initial thoughts. But off you go, man. Look forward to this. Whatever.
All right, so
maybe we'll all disappear.
All right, hold on. I'm just going to have to get a knife if you just give me a couple of seconds. There we go. So I have my knife right here. Got a shiny knife. Yeah, sorry about the interference lines on the screen. As you can see, I'm working on this video project at the moment. I've got all these video machines that I'm building right now, and that's about as clean as I can get the signal. So this is my monolith right here. In fact, no, before I crack this open, just to remind you where I came from in the first place. Like, you remember the big trees, don't you?
Say again?
You remember back in about 2015 the giant trees.
Yeah,
giant trees. That's
of course I do. Yeah.
Right. Well. It turned up at the perfect time, right? 'Cause, where I live, the Malvern Hills.
Of course it did.
when nobody in Malvern, where I live, nobody knows where the hills came from. They don't know what they are, where they came from. Like, nothing is known about them really. So obviously I was quite fascinated by that. And then just at the right time, No Forest on Flat Earth turns up. Exactly what I needed at exactly the right time. That led to about 2 or 3 years of full blown autism obsession with satellite imagery around the Sahara Desert specifically. So much crazy stuff going on over there, and it took me years to get my head around it. And eventually I kind of had to give up on that project because things just got so intangible that I couldn't tange them basically. So I kind of abandoned that project and moved on to other things ley lines, what we call ley lines over here, what we call crop circles. I mean, all this stuff is, all the old ancient, megalithic structures and that. It's all related. You see, it's all part of the same thing, which I now recognise as circuitry, right? Like the same as the electronic circuitry I spend my days working on. Well, that's now how reality looks to me, right? When I look at reality, it's all current flow, signal processing, current flow. It's all electronics basically. And that's the eyes. That's the new eyes that I've got now with which I tend to see reality. I look at things. My mechanical brain, the old Terminator brain, it's always ticking away, always analysing. And for me, the 2020 eyes. That's one of the big revelations of this year, is that actually you can apply electronic circuitry theory to every aspect of reality, and it makes perfect sense. It makes more sense than it does without it. So, which is obviously very nice.
That's an amazing password. Let me just say, I've been looking at regarding the Matrix, and there's a Matrix 4 set for release as well. So that's along very similar lines, 2.88. But I think I look forward to what you have to reveal here. But ultimately, I do think that everything is connected in this intricate way. One thing is in everything. Everything is in one thing, and it's via this center point that I think the source, if you want, in the Matrix, I talk about the source, the architect, and the oracle. I think ultimately my thoughts are just in the topic as well. That goes back to relationships between the zero, the one, and the infinite. and you can find that everywhere. But not to take away from you, because I definitely like you to expand upon that, and where it has led you, I guess, to understanding your position within this greater circuitry. Are you but a circuit construction yourself?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I don't really know, honestly, truth be told. I'm just, I guess the best I can do is just kind of play it by ear, same as I've been doing so far. I mean, whatever I've been doing up to this point is obviously working because it's generated results. So I guess in that regard, there's not much more you can do, really. I'll keep doing what I do the way I do it, and then hopefully all the good stuff will keep flowing. Maybe not.
Have you noticed the green hue to the sky in England there?
No, I've heard you talk about this before. I have actually seen the green tint. I know what you're talking about, but no, I haven't observed really anything this year other than weird cloud patterns. I remember you at the beginning of the year. You actually mentioned that the cloud patterns have changed. Right. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. It's quite interesting. I don't know whether it's just my eyes, but yeah, the clouds have taken on a much more geometric kind of vibe to them, I guess.
I was just saying earlier on about the eye providence, and I was just looking at having the smoke at the window, wondering could I see it. I saw it straight away. I can't show you because it won't pick it up with the camera. But please pay attention, anyone who's listening out there, to your local skies. I think the signs are everywhere, and it's, for me anyway, everything goes back to a central emanation. And well, we're in a time of repair. We're all developing the eyes to see, and ultimately, I think 2.88, it comes back to, well, who we are in all of this. And I mean, I'm not going to hold you up any further. If you want to continue on, maybe this will shed some light on who we are.
Yeah. All right. So are you ready for this then? So,
can you share your full screen, by the way? I don't know how to share your full screen.
All right. Well, this is quite the dramatic presentation. So, are you looking very closely? Right. Ready?
Okay. I don't know what I'm looking at. Oh, hang on.
It's a book. It's a book. That book is by. It's a book. It's a book by a chap called Bruce Cathy, and the book is called Harmonic 2.88, and it's about all the stuff which I'm interested in, namely ley lines, UFOs, and the grids which the UFOs and the ley lines operate from on. Yeah, it's called Harmonic 2.88, Pulse of the Universe, by a chap called Bruce Cathy. And I thought you might find this especially interesting because this guy's managed to actually map out these grids. He reckons there's actually two grids overlapping one another. And he's done lots of maths, lots of pretty good research and stuff. I've actually read this book on PDF, most of it anyway. But the interesting part, this guy uses the Mercator projection, the flat Earth map. So very, very interesting indeed. I'll just read the back of it.
He's not a flat earther himself, is he?
I think he actually. I mean, this is an old book. This is like I think it was the 1970s. This was published.
Right.
What does it say? Right. Captain Bruce Cathy is a Fokker Friendship and Boeing 737 captain with the National Airways Corporation of New Zealand. His first interest in UFOs began in 1952 when he and several other witnesses observed a strange craft hovering. The event carry out serious research with the phenomena and wrote his first two books, Harmonic 33, Harmonic 695, The UFO and Anti-Gravity. And in his books, he described his discovery of a worldwide electromagnetic grid pattern which could be directly related to the movements of unidentified flying objects, world gravitational forces, and geometric positioning of test facilities for atomic bombs. Both these books have become famous in world UFO circles. And I'm sure I'll say when it was first published in here. So 1977 it was first published. So I don't know if this guy's still around, but yeah, if he was, I'd say he's probably a fair bet to call him a flat earther at this point.
Well, well, I think, beyond a certain point, you're going to be led into the no, right? But what do you think what's the significance of 2.88 in the title there and the harmonics? I mean, my own.
I haven't quite got to that bit yet.
Okay, but does it coincide? Well, okay, let me ask you, what was the motivation for your own naming 2.88 mile mushroom?
Oh, I'm a very literal guy, mate. I'm a very literal chap. It was. Are you familiar with a geological feature out in the Sahara Desert known as the Eye of the Sahara?
Yes, I am.
You may be, may not be. Yeah, the Eye of the Sahara, great big, I think it's about 25 miles wide, and it looks like an eye, really. It's big, round, circular, mysterious, very mysterious structure. And
that's probably what I'm looking at in the sky right now. I'm telling you, in a different reflected format, right? But yeah, is that listed as 2.88 miles in length or in height or something?
No, there's a clue to the nature of the Eye of the Sahara. There's a great big clue about another 20 or 30 miles away. You can only see it from when you zoom out enough from the satellite imagery. There's a certain thing which kind of stands out a few miles away, and that's where I got my username from. So yeah, well, I say that's where I got my username from. That's where the numbers chase me down. I like to think of it because after all these years, I can't help but think that perhaps it wasn't me that discovered the numbers. Perhaps it was maybe the other way around.
Everything is God's number, we're told. But a great thought came to me, which was, I'm sure, whatever, lots of thoughts come to lots of people, and they don't share them. But 2020 being 8/8, which is the clock face, and 2000 hours is 8 o'clock, right? So we have the 2 8s resonating there. But in terms of harmonic, is this? I mean, is it hard to come by this book? I mean, did you have to?
No, I did find it on eBay. I did find it on eBay in the end. I was directed to something on the internet, and I read the whole thing. It had right at the very end. It had a little extract from this specific book. So yeah, I read it, and then and I lost the original website, and I couldn't quite remember what the damn thing was called. So I spent hours and hours and hours googling eBaying in the numbers 2.88 along with every other search word I could find, and eventually I managed to find the book just from the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, harmonic resonance. I had a dream one night, and in great big letters, it jumped out at me in whatever the setting, a particular setting. Resonance is key. So I bear with me that resonance is key in all of this, and with the external reality, and within ourselves as well. And I mean, I think it's in my own thinking anyway. We are in a divided state. We are under oppressive energies that were never sort of meant for us, and. Does he reflect that in any way? Has everything been thrown off balance according to him, or is everything set for repair? 2.88. I say this is what it's been all about. There's a repair process in play, and these energies, which I call the ether, they're sort of the reactionary force to the force that's holding back the waters. They're the life-giving force. Without it, we wouldn't be vibrating, but it's not the natural way, right? So we're torn from nature, and it's getting back to this resonant, harmonic balance that all of this endeavor has been about, as far as I can tell.
But I agree with you. Yeah, I'm right there on it. I mean, the way I see it is, I showed you the 432 mystery where I started out, didn't I? That thing, that deep web thing. Well, that's where I started out, really. And as far as I'm concerned, after all these years of studying it, it's what it is it's quite literally the divine blueprint. There is a divine blueprint for all things, and you either right now, I think what's happened is that for one reason or another, we've this whole world, not just myself, but this whole world and everything in it's all been diminished from the divine blueprint. You know, someone's come along, whatever, turned the lights down, and that's the result of that is this shitty fake world that we've been born into. But yeah, it's not. I mean, a world made out of lies is never destined to last forever, is it? Really? I mean, it's
No.
you know, it can't self-maintain itself when all it is a bunch of lies on top of other lies on top of other lies. I mean, all it takes is like one Mr. Wolf to just come along and blow a little bit, and the whole thing falls down. You know, so I mean, that's what I see happening at the moment.
Yeah,
you know, we've got a divine blueprint.
Yeah, it is life after all. Life is intricate within the word life. So maybe we're told from the very outset what we're in for. And what I've reduced it in my own thinking to two possibilities. We're either, of course, we pre-exist life, but we're either forced into this shittiness, or we consent. Is there any possible way I could have consented to this? I'm thinking more and more, absolutely. Nothing happens for the most part.
We must have done. I can't see why I'd be here if I didn't want to be here for some reason or other.
Right. And you know, I think once there's always a gate. Once we get to flat Earth, who's waiting at the door for us with their book in hand, their literal book, which is the Bible literalists. And you know, we're always been led, or possibly led astray. And that's the way I look upon this, as a greater endeavor, a greater challenge, a greater treasure hunt. We set ourselves a challenge. It won't last forever. We have eternity on our sides. In the meantime, if we follow the clues, now is the time. And look, no one has ever seen anything like 2020. My friend, I don't know if you listened in last year, but you definitely listen in regularly. I predicted a transformation in 2000. I know I had many different thoughts in mind, but particularly Easter time last year, 2019. And funny enough, I came to that conclusion based on lots of different thoughts, right? But primarily 19 played the role, which is the 8th prime number. My mistake was counting from 0. I started counting from 2000 instead of 2001. So in a sense, I started counting at 0 instead of at 1. How silly of me, and especially when I later came to realize the greater significance of 9/11 and all of this, right? And that transformative non-event, the greatest blockbuster of our time, and where it would lead, right? But yeah, I mean, is this what it's been all about? And actually, just saying that, is what I think the Green Hue is about as well. I hold that the barrier has been inflated, and these harmonic energies, this is what it's all about ultimately. Well, we're coming in line in tune. Aristarchus has increased in frequency in preparation for this. I mean, what is time at the end of the day? Is everything working its way backwards towards that ultimate resolution? I say so, man. I say that Eden has come to us. That's what I say, man. But we're on our own in our thinking at this stage. And yeah, I mean, but what are you doing anything yourself? I reckon, right? I've been waiting for this for a long time, but I reckon if just there's a sort of a new normal, a new facade is put in place, that if it's time to head away, it'll be via that route. Just I think once you get beyond a certain point and a certain level of understanding, you know which pathways to take. Well, then you just distract or detract completely and cut yourself off from reality. And well, who knows where you go then, in terms of mind, in terms of spirit, in terms of that relationship between the three bodies included. You know, and maybe you seem to hint that that's the way you're going, man. When you talk about sorcery, what level of sorcery are you? I don't know anything ever.
Well, let me. So when I was a kid, when I was a very young man, I read the Carlos Castaneda books, right? Teachings of Don Juan, the Yaqui Indians. You know, it's in fact, I might be able to just read you the preface. I've actually got Art of Dreaming here. I read all these books when I was a young man, and I was too young, right? I didn't have the awareness required to actually make sense of all of this stuff. But it turned out, obviously, it did have some manner of influence on me, because since working on this moon project, which I've been working on for the last couple of years, well, it turns out what I thought I was doing. I mean, obviously, I'm a technology nerd. I'm into technology and electronics and cameras and stuff. So I was making my own custom cameras, right? I made a full spectrum camera, took off all the blocking filters off of it. And what I found is that my full spectrum camera can see a whole bunch of extra content which none of my other cameras could. And I was like, whoa, this is interesting, isn't it? So what I did was I started working on my eyes themselves to see what was going on here. And I discovered that actually my human eyes are fully capable of seeing all the full spectrum elements are on my full spectrum camera, but not on any of my other cameras. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And it turned out that for my whole entire life, I've been keeping my eyes in like a state of being permanently squinted against bright light, if you know what I mean. I've got very sensitive eyes from the ginger hair I expect. And so if I want to function in daytime reality, I have to keep my eyes in like this permanent state of squinting against bright light. And I've been doing it for so long that I'd never even noticed, right? It was just normal for me. And thanks to the full spectrum camera, I gradually learned how to unsquint my eyes, how to relax those muscles. And the second I started to do that, my eyes started to drastically improve. I could see a whole bunch of stuff that I couldn't see before. Like colors were a lot more vivid. There's a sort of dreamy auras around stuff as well, like particularly flowers and stuff. All of this was stuff which I couldn't see before. And that was about 5 years ago now. I've been working on my eyes ever since. And when I started to do the moon project, there was a few things which I noticed, like specifically pink light at the top of the moon, a layer of pink light and a layer of blue light around the very top. I might even be able to just show you just give me a moment. Hopefully my moon video should be up. Hold on. So I'll start the video again. I might be able to show you some of this pink light that I was talking about. You can see a little bit of it there. I've kind of lost my train. So yeah, basically what I've been doing for the last couple of years is what I thought I was doing was exploring the higher functions of the human eye. Like if you buy like a phone or something, you find out it can do loads of stuff, but that stuff hasn't been enabled, if you know what I mean. The same thing, I've been working on the same thing with the eyes, right? Exploring the higher functions of the human eye to see what else these things are capable of doing. Oh, here we go. Just pause it a minute. Well, one of the things that I've discovered is this pink light surrounding the moon. Absolutely crazy. I'll find a better one than this. Yeah, I could see it with the cameras, or my cameras can see it. This camera and my full spectrum camera can both see it quite well, but it took basically an entire year of practicing with my eyes to actually make my eyes see this pink and purple light. They couldn't see it before. They can now. And while I was there, I was playing around. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, it pixelated a bit there. Oh, I'll just leave it running until a better one comes up. But anyway, it turns out there's all kinds of interesting different ways you can use to look at the moon. And there's different. If you think of your eye as a machine with all these different mechanical components, all in a specific mechanical configuration in order to make them work properly. And if you move one piece, then everything kind of breaks and reality looks different, if you know what I mean. And for the most part it's just blurry. Right? You can play around the muscles in your eye and you can make reality go blurry. You can darken it up, brighten it up. You can do all kinds of things. And most of these different ways of seeing it are incoherent, really. All they do is generate blur. But then when you do the same thing, but looking at the moon, everything goes a bit different. The same mechanical configuration, which would just make reality go all blurry and incoherent. Well, when you do that exact same thing with the moon, you find the whole shape rearranges itself into a completely different shape. And this completely different shape, it turns out, is actually perhaps even more coherent than the actual normal moon, being that the moon is, not really coherent at all, if you're honest about it. And yeah, I was fascinated by this, like the higher functions of the human eye, exploring these different mechanical configurations, right? Seeing what kind of extra content jumps out. for example, the pink light that you see in there. And well, it turns out what I've actually been doing is full-on sorcery. I've been reading the old Don Juan books again, and there's a whole bunch of circumstances where he's where Don Juan, the Mexican sorcerer guy, is teaching his apprentice how to quote unquote see. He calls it seeing rather than looking. And yeah, it turns out that's what I've been doing. It turns out that's what I've been doing naturally, just by my own natural instincts for the last 2 years. And that's pretty much where I am at the moment. Is I'm still working on this, exploring the higher components of the higher functions of the actual eyes themselves, in order to see what kind of extra content pops out. And with the moon, what I found is quite extraordinary. If you just give me a couple of little, in fact, no, I'll wait for a suitable image to come up on my moon video, and then I'll pause it, and then I'll show you something really special.
Nice one, man. I mean, I think I saw Aristarchus crater, or Aristarchus pit, I think they call it, just passing by on screen. But that's fascinating, man. So you're involved in sort of natural sorcery. I'd be interested to hear what true shape the moon is.
It's a lotus piece. It's a lotus.
It's a what? A lotus.
Lotus. You know the flower lotus?
Yes.
Imagine what a lotus looks like. Then imagine you sort of turn the lotus at an angle, so the flower sections are pointing up. It's a different shape with each different moon phase, obviously. But generally, if you can use your eyes to convert the moon into a lotus shape, and on that lotus shape, what you find it's not easy holding it into focus. It's taken me a long time to kind of train the muscles so that you can hold it in focus rather than blinking it away. But when you can hold it in focus, what you find is that it's very, very coherent. It actually makes more sense than what it does when you look at it normally. As to what that means, I'm still working on that one. But
I'm with you, man. And this brings a closer significance to the sacred lotus. For me, the moon is a reflection, but it reflects in a certain way. I've made other sort of progress myself, which is like, look, in relation to what you do there and the work you put in, and I feel like a fucking loser, right? Because I haven't done any of that, even to any level, but I'm just making my way along my own path. But I see.
Oh, don't say that, Pete. Don't stop degrading yourself, man. You've been enormously. I reckon I was working this out about a year or so ago. I reckon you've saved me about 500 years of work. I reckon seriously, right? Seriously, without your help, I would have had to physically reverse engineer 500 years of bullshit, right? And yeah, 500 years. That's how long this bullshit's been going on for. And
I guess you owe me one. Next time I see you, it's your round on the hookers and the cocaine.
I do owe you one, Pete. I do owe you one. You've been enormously helpful. I mean,
well, look.
I mean, I've watched you over the last few years. Just effortlessly plow through just insurmountable towers of complete and utter bullshit. And I've just watched you plow through it effortlessly. It's been remarkable. You know, I've watched you in like a whole room full of these science shills, and you just straight up laugh at them. You just straight up laugh at them. You laugh at them. You call them liars, and the next thing you know, like these science people are like putting on like full on caps lock hate speech in the live chats. You know, it's remarkable. Yeah,
I love it. That's path to where I'm at now, right? But I think what you mentioned there, what I'm talking about is the workload that you do, and just that core research, which has true thought, through endeavor behind it, right? And of course, you're on your own path, and you know better than anybody. This is an isolated path. You can't go along with anyone else. You have to take where you're at and try to make sense of it in your own way. Let me just say, regarding the lotus flower, that sort of rang home as well, so much to me, and all going back to how the core expresses. And I've made a few findings on the moon that there's a repeating pattern, and I mentioned it in my own terms. It's like a fan unfolding, in a three-dimensional sense, or in a movement sense, right? The fan unfolding, which, as we look at the image here of a lotus flower, it's very close to my own thoughts, but I didn't associate it with the lotus flower. So thank you for that. But when it comes to, well, that's an answer. That's an answer and a half. So what we're looking at. Well, let me ask you this: when we rise beyond a certain level, the moon shrinks into almost a nothingness. What are we looking at when it comes to well, to our eyes? To our eyes, when we're looking at the moon through the atmosphere, through a certain gradient of whatever is in play, what do you think? What are we looking at in reality?
Well. That's a good question, isn't it? That's a very special question. Someone asked me this on Soundly's chat years ago. I was just shitposting over at Soundly's chat, just generally trolling around, and one of these fat slobs over there straight up asked, said, "Oh, what do you think the sky's all about then?" You know, he said, "Oh, you reject science. What do you think the sky's all about?" And I thought about it for a second. And I thought, well, it's lens flare, isn't it? It's lens flare. It's the exact same phenomena that if you get a camera, you point the camera up at the sun, then you wobble the camera around, what you find is you get all these lens-shaped projections within the imagery. Apparently these round, blobular, colourful, glowing blobs of light in your imagery called lens flare, right? I mean, I'm sure there's videos on YouTube where you can see good examples of this stuff, but ultimately, when you point a camera up at the sun or any light source, what you see is you see the lens flare, and the way it manifests is as lens-shaped projections. And because the lens is around, ultimately, what you end up with is these round blobs of light, like floating around your imagery. If you look really closely at lens flare, what you find is that it's actually geometric. It only looks round on the surface level. When you look really closely, you find it's actually very complicated geometry sort of thing. And you find exactly the same thing with the sun and with the moon as well. When you look very, very closely, when you're aware of the dodgy technology, which the modern telescopes especially are, when you can see past the dodgy technology and you look closely at the sun and the moon, you find it's geometric. It's very, very rarely an actual round circle. It's usually some manner of like very complex crop circly looking geometry, but because of the way that light travels through the atmosphere, the complex geometry tends to get blended out into something that ends up looking circular. So my answer to that question is, if you ask what it's all about, well, we know that when you point a camera up at the sky, you get lens flare. Well, I mean, what do you think happens when you point your eye up at the sky? I mean, does it not stand to reason that the same phenomenon that causes lens flare in cameras? Hold on, there you go. So, yeah, it's not a very good example of lens flare, but there you go. See that little blue chap down at the bottom there? That little blue chap right there on the bottom of the screen that you're seeing, that's an example of lens flare. How you're seeing a lens-shaped projection apparently projected into the imagery. Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it would stand to reason that the same phenomena that causes lens flare in cameras is going to do the same thing in your eye, isn't it? So, I mean, what does lens flare in your eye look like? I mean, that's what lens flare in a camera looks like. So what does lens flare in your eye look like? And, well, all you have to do is just look up at the sky. You see all those little blobs of light, all those round, twinkly blobs of light right there. Well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the organic version of lens flare. So in that regard, the actual shape of the light is not particularly relevant. It's like you said, it's the origin of the light which is the important part. The actual light itself. I mean, it's coming from somewhere, isn't it? And if the patterns that we're seeing are not authentic, if they're distortions of a hall of mirrors of something else, of an original form, then it's the original form and the original light which is the important thing, isn't it? The actual origin of that light.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, the origin of the light is, if we just let me zoom in for a moment, the origin of the light is the eye of the beholder. There we go. There we go. That's what the black sun means to me. It's the sun on my full spectrum camera, And when you zoom in, what you're looking at, oh, it's my own eye. It's that's my eye that you're looking at right there. The eye of the beholder. That's where it's all happening. It's all happening internally. And when you look out, what you're looking at is ultimately an inside out, probably upside down, inside out projection of the interior of your own eye. The moon, the sun, the planets. I mean, I'm not saying they're not real and they're not authentic, but the version that we see when we look at them is really just a projection of our own eye. You know, we're looking at eye-shaped projections of something else. So it's like you've said. I've heard you talk about this a lot, where you're talking about Aristarchus being the source of all of the light, and yeah, I absolutely agree. Like it's the actual origin, the source and the origin of the light itself is the really interesting thing. Not so much the shapes that it's manifesting into, but the actual origin and source of the light.
That's fascinating imagery. Let me just share my screen quickly there. I didn't mean to if I was sharing over you, but let me share my screen quickly there. So this is what I just call the sun tree, right? But this is just a screenshot from high altitude. I have lots of them, right? From different cameras and different countries. This is a screenshot of the sun above what I call the interfering atmosphere, right? So you're doing away with all of that distortion, and this pattern jumps out all the time. It's there, ever present, and just to say it is part of it. I have made here. I'm not overtaxing the computer here. I've made a side by side with there's a bit of echo there, but that's okay. I think we're okay with it. I made a side by side with the Jesuit IHS race on, if you know that image. I think I can just find it. So many images here. I'm going to tell you that. So many images here, man. So I could just pick one and talk about it there, but I can't locate it now immediately. Just going to take my time to find it. Because, oh, here we go. I have it here. There we go. Said broken Jesuit. It was very interesting. There we have the TH as well. Look, you see it in this. There's so much in this image, right? Michael Jackson faked his death and returned as the Five Alive Dodo, but he left us with the "This Is It" concert. It never went ahead. But this is the famous IHS Jesuit symbol, which goes back hundreds of years. This is an image from high altitude balloon footage, which is only possible in the last, I guess, however many years. There's an amazing similarity between the two, and one is definitely, for me anyway, referencing the other. So again, getting back to what this actually is, well, yeah, you know my point of view, and it makes sense, and the connected with the tree of life then makes even more sense, and just the way all the different roads point to the one thing, the divided tree of life. Aristarchus for me, isn't that very much like an eyeball as well? You were talking about the eyeball. Look at how much like an eyeball that is. 2.88. Look at it.
It's interesting. It's especially interesting, that picture, because it's highly suggestive of light being shined at an angle, if you know what I mean. This is it's, you know, when you shine a light directly on something. I mean, light travels in light waves travels in straight lines, doesn't it? So I mean, when you look closely at the angles of that, it suggests. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know for sure, but it looks to me like that's light been shined from like at an angle onto something.
Right. I'm with you, man.
Maybe.
I'm with you. And here's my point as well. What's fundamental in our consideration is well, you know, we come to flat Earth. We deny the vacuum space. So what is there? Is there something there? What's our first protocol? It has to be water. So you know, for me, I know I'm on my own in this one sort of thing, but well, you know, it's waters, and this reflective screen that's giving off all of these lens flares are just reflective.
I mean, waters above would explain a lot. It would
Right.
explain a lot. I mean, it would explain why it'd explain why the moon is always blurry. I mean, when you see these pictures, these NASA photos of the moon like looking solid, I mean that's not real, is it? I mean, I've got loads of cameras and telescopes and all kinds of funky stuff, and I've never managed to get a single frame of the moon actually looking solid. The best I can get is it always looks a bit liquidy, if you know what I mean. It always looks a bit sort of blurry and liquidy.
Well,
I mean, I discovered after about a year of doing research, I discovered that my forensics picture, which I was actually using to study, was it's actually a stacked image. If you know what stacked image is, they use a computer to like take about 100 different frames and overlay them all on top of one another with editing out all the blurry bits. So when I was looking at this photo of the moon, I was literally looking right at a full-on illusion of solidity, where otherwise it would be liquid. It's like you said, like the liquidity rather than an illusion of solidity.
It's a reflection onto a liquid screen, but my ultimate point was to get to the bottom of the contour and dimension of this reflective screen. I think this is paramount, and maybe this is what I was connecting what you said about different angles of light. Well, if light is being expressed in all directions, depending on the constituency and the contour of the reflective screen, that will have a massive impact on what we as observers see. And just to give you an equation, look at the different type of mirrors in the hall of mirrors and the different reflective patterns. So I think this is maybe implicit in all of this as well, but maybe not. But will you agree with me here, 2.88, that the truth in all of this is known? There's no sort of venture into uncharted territory in any of this. Or, you know, it's all prescripted. Do you think that is the case?
I'd love to deny that, but the problem is every time I do figure something out, I always go, "Oh yeah, I knew that already." So I think you might be right on that one. I'd love to say no, that's bollocks. Of course not. But like I said, every time I do go through the time and effort of finally figuring out an answer to something or other, it turns out I actually knew it all along anyway. So it's like I said with Soundly's chap, with that fat twat on Soundly's chat, who was he straight up said, "Oh, what do you think the sky is?" And I thought about it for a few seconds. I was like, "Oh yeah, well, it's obvious, really, isn't it? It's bloody, it's lens flare in your camera." So and that was about 5 years ago now, so, or however many years ago it was. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, knowing something is not enough for me. If I know something, or if I've got an idea of something that I'm pretty sure is for real, I mean, that's great, but it's not enough for me. I need to be able to actually touch it with my hands, if you know what I mean, physically demonstrate it with the cameras or technology or whatever else. And that's just me. I mean, I'm a hands-on kind of guy,
Yeah, and I'm sort of the opposite. It's not that I couldn't do it. I could write about. I mean, whatever my future holds.
You should write, Pete. You should write a nice book, mate. Yeah, you should write, Pete. You should write yourself a book, man.
Yeah, but this is all coming to an end, man. This is always counting down to something. So the truth is already known. It's not as I guess when all of this rolls over, the corona, I think corona is the light of heaven. So what we're seeing here, the green light, Eden has come to us. So I think all the truth will be revealed then. It's not about who said that or what, because it's already known. You know what I mean? So for me to write stuff, that's in the alternative reality where the new normal is in play, and we're still as free thinkers, as restricted as ever, having to live a lie in a world where everyone believes is truthful otherwise. So, but you know what I mean? That's a different matter. We'll see how this ends. And just by the way, to say, I mentioned earlier on the 12th month and the 21st, very special day as well. Lots of astronomical alignments. Apparently Jupiter and Saturn will come so close together at 1 degree of separation, it will appear like an extremely bright star on 21st of December 2020, which is
solstice.
8 years after 2012. Do you remember where you were in 2012? Did you buy into all the 2012?
Yes, I did. I did at the time. Yes, I did. I did at the time. Did you see the 2012 crop circle? I don't know if you saw the 2012 crop circle. It was outrageous, massive, absolutely, really amazing crop circle.
Let me bring that up. Is there any specific name to it?
The Aztec one, I guess. It was a big, great big Aztec circle, really huge one, really intricate, and
I think I remember.
That was the reason that I kind of brought into the 2012 stuff. I thought, you don't make a crop circle that kind of dramatic and that sizeful unless you know a thing or two, right? So that was my thinking back then. As it turned out, 2012 was a bit of a letdown, really.
Well, as you reverted back to earlier thinking, or you come to do so in some related findings, I say 2012 happened, man. We just haven't recognized it yet. It's only with hindsight that we recognize it, and indeed, hindsight is 2020, right? 2.8. Let me share my screen here because I'm not sure which one you're referring to, although I think I have an idea. Let me just share my screen here, and you can point out the one exactly. Although
you'll know when you see it. You'll know when you see it.
A guy called Matthew Hobery, you must have been around early days if you were. Matthew Hobery was he was one of the guys.
That's the one, mate. Yeah, that's the one, Pete. It's actually, it's the first one, I think. It's the one with like the square spirals around the edges. So actually, no, it's not that one. Sorry, it might be one of the others. Maybe I can't remember. Or was it that one? I can't remember. There were a whole bunch of them that year, weren't there? There was a whole bunch of Aztec-y looking crop circles that particular year. It was. I think it was that one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, if you look carefully, it's got like some kind of square spirals around the edges. I think, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a while ago now, like 8 years ago. So
I know I didn't mean to bring you back to any specifics or anything, but I don't think that was the one I was thinking of now. It was more like it was more like orbiting planets around the spiraling center. But anyway, I don't think that's. No, is that the one you were thinking of? Hang on, look at all this.
I think it might be. I don't even know, to be honest. I mean, like I say, it was 2012, and I was completely off my bonks on mescalines back in those days. So yeah, I might be wrong, but I mean, yeah, it is. That is the right one. Yeah, if you look, there's you can see square spirals around the outside edges. Because of course you know what square spirals mean, don't you? That's code word for flat Earth. Those square spirals.
Really?
You see them on the John Carpenter, on at least one John Carpenter movie. I think it's on a few.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like code word for flat Earth. The that square spiral. It's something to do with the full court pendulum. I don't know specifics, but yeah, that's something I didn't realize at the time. I didn't know that at the time, but yeah, when you see square spiral like that, it means flat Earth.
That's interesting now, and I can get why. That might be in my version of flat Earth anyway. Well, of course, if the planar surface is going to be laid out in a grid-like fashion, like Cartesian coordinate system, but the spiraling aspect of it, well, we have a central source to all, right? So that's where they get the sense from, and just tying in with the pi as well, the relationship between ultimately the spiral, the circle, and the square. So that's interesting. So that's recognized as being sort of code, is that? I mean, that you've come to find.
Certainly within the John Carpenter movies, yeah. Like, you know, they live. Remember They Live?
Yeah. They all know, man. It's an open secret. I mean, you know, it's an open secret. How many? There must be millions at this stage in the know. But to what degree are they in the know? You know, all these contributors, you know, the returning Ball Earth antagonist, anti-conspiracy crews, they all know the Earth is flat. They all know much. I knew that from the start. They knew much more than what I did. But I was wondering how much they knew. They didn't know about Aristarchus, and that tells me, I guess, in one sense, that every man must, there has to be a mystery, and no matter how much you're led into the truth, there will still be a mystery in your life, and you'll still be surprised at the end of it. But that's just me. I mean, but yeah, they all know, man. They all know. So I think the ultimate challenge is to come to know what they know.
I mean, they must do. I mean, I don't see how anyone can, like, you know, honestly try and defend spinning globes at this point. I mean, it's yeah, they must know. I mean, it must be some kind of game or initiation or something, you know, because I mean, like in all intelligence, it's not something that I mean, how can you honestly look someone in the eye and say, yeah, you know, after all this NASA bullshit's been exposed, but I still believe in spinning globes? Right now, you know, there's game being played, isn't there?
Well, it's getting towards our motivations, and well, I like to think, on the bright side anyway, that they're playing a greater role in the awakening of man, which is what we're in the midst of now, and everything will be revealed. It has to be everything. If it's not everything, 2.88, I think the only option for me afterwards is, I don't know, settle. I guess I could make some money and just live out life with the understanding the creator has a different plan in mind than what I was thinking anyway, or else maybe more likely is to make a strenuous effort to get to the north, to where, and funny enough, just to tie in, when you talk about anyone believing in a spinning ball Earth, I mentioned it the last time, if I was to summate just my thoughts, if I was to paint a picture of Earth, I would paint a picture of an eyeball Earth, and we're living at the very top. So underneath, it's intact, right? The tree intact, and ultimately, taking that into consideration, Earth is a spinning globe for me. Because something's moving. Something is moving once, you know what I mean, and it has overall a globular sort of shape, a globular divide. I think if the two sides were intact, actually, right, then we have an 8, a 3-dimensional 8 in that sense, with a plate in the center. My best way of thinking about it anyway, but it's mad. It's too mad to think about it in those. I think there's certain things beyond our ability. I don't even think so, actually. Maybe. Well, actually, did you mention dreams? So you think there's some sort of power to be had from dreams, or controlling dreams, or manifesting stuff?
Well, that's where I'm at right now. You see, so I don't dream. I mean, I'm sure everyone dreams a little bit, but you know, as far as I know, you know, I occasionally have like the odd little bit of a dream, and then usually I just wake up straight away. So, you know, I don't do dreaming really at all, but I do get insomnia, and you know, insomnia. If you ever had proper insomnia, it lasts for, in my case, it lasts for days and days. You know, it lasts to the point where literally I just can't sleep. You know. Can't sleep. It feels like my brain's soaking up all my processor cycles. Well, what I've noticed is that after a couple of days of this, things start to get weird. Weird things start to manifest within actual waking reality, and they're tangible things as well. You know, like I'll get all kinds of weird numbers that seem to kind of follow me around and, you know, manifest all over the place. And you know, I mean, if you've had that thing with numbers, at first you kind of ignore it for a bit. You go, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's just probability. But, you know, I mean, the odds become like an extra magnitude each time it happens, doesn't it? So you see your numbers, and then a couple of minutes later, you see your same numbers again. And then a few minutes after that, you see the next one. I mean, by the end of the day, you're talking about odds of billions and billions to one. You know, it's something that's just, it's completely incongruous with, you know, with what I call reality.
Expectation.
And it turns out all this information here in my Carlos Castaneda Art of Dreaming book. Well, it turns out the information, the reason it didn't make any sense to me at the time when I was a young man, it's all encoded, and the key which I needed to actually decode it all was merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream, right? And the way I got this was there's an obelisk by where I live on the Malvern Hills, great big old obelisk at the end of the hills, and I tend to visit it every year. And every year I look at it and I go, what the bloody hell is this thing? I don't get it. What's going on here? What's the deal with these things? And they're all up and down the land here in Britain, all over the place. And then it occurred to me one day, I thought, what exactly are these great big massive acupuncture point needle looking obelisks all over the place? Why is Great Britain covered in acupuncture needles all over the place? And then I thought, or to ask the exact same question in another way, how do you go about technologically modifying a dream in order to provide an illusion of solidity, which is convincing enough so that you think it's real? And it just occurred to me, the two pieces snapped into place, and I was like, right, okay, that's what they're all about. All these obelisks, all these megalithic structures, all this, all the castles, it's all circuitry, and it's all circuitry which, when combined, creates a machine in your head, and it's the machine which we perceive through. Think of it like a Terminator brain. If you ever watch the Terminator, right, that you actually get to see inside the Terminator's head, right? Well, that's the same way that my brain works. And it's not the only way the brain works. It's not all of it. It's like just one layer of the consciousness, but that's the layer which I perceive through. And within this like layer that you perceive through, you get a very convincing illusion of solidity, don't you? And it's convincing enough so that you can do things like sharp focus, which you can't do in dreams, or standing still, for example, another thing that you can't really do in a dream. And that's what this reality is on a certain level. I'm not saying every level, but on a certain level, what this reality is a dream that's been technologically modified using buildings and megalithic structures, all that kind of stuff. And that's what reality is. It's a dream. It's a technologically modified dream. So all I need to do now is to apply all my Carlos Castaneda dreaming knowledge from the dreaming book, but instead of applying it in an attempt to do a lucid dream, which I can't do, I can actually apply it in real life, and it will have similar effects. I can kind of make really weird stuff manifest, and I don't really have much conscious control over it. I mean, I'm not much of a magician really in that regards, but it's enough for me to know that it is a real thing, and you can really actually do stuff with this. So like merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
So you think all of these different obelisks and the like are generating or material reality in a sense for us to operate within or make sense of ultimately? Have we been placed within?
It's even more than that. Yes, it's everything you just said, plus it's a lot more than that as well. I mean, what is reality? Well, ultimately, when you look at reality, what you're looking at is an upside down, inside out projection of the interior of your own eye, in exactly the same way that lens flare in a camera is an upside down, inside out projection of the camera's lens, right? So when you observe reality with your eyes, what you're doing is you're pressing your own confirmation bias onto the actual substrate, which is more like a dream. The actual true nature of reality is blurry, it's soft focus, vivid colors. It's more liquidy than anything else, reality in its natural state. But when you observe it with your mechanical machine man Terminator brain, what you're doing is imposing your own illusion of solidity onto it. And it turns out reality actually responds to it by, accommodating your illusion of solidity as much as it sort of can do. But the actual machinery itself is, the origin of the machinery itself is the machinery in your head manifests in the form of the obelisks and the castles and the, all the funky stuff that you see around you. That's the way I see it, is that, when I look at, for example, Silbury Hill in Avebury, what I'm looking at is, let me just show you. on my moon picture.
You're looking inwards.
What?
You're looking at the.
Yeah. Essentially, I'm looking at something that's inside my own mind, which is part of my own perceptual machinery, which has been projected outwards onto reality, and that's the way I see things at the moment. Like I say, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm not gonna pretend I know everything. But from the solipsistic perspective, when you look around at reality, well, what you're looking at is part of your own perceptual machinery. You're looking at like a Campbell-Wick green, like a little clockwork orrery that you carry around. You carry it around in your head with you. It self-generates when you observe something or other. And it's part of your perceptual circuitry. There's a whole bunch of stuff which you can't perceive with your naked eye, but what you have is this world that you carry around with you, and the world itself can perceive all the stuff which you can't perceive directly, and it manifests in the form of the world that you see around you. Does that make sense? I'm not a very good communicator, so please bear with me if that doesn't make too much sense.
You're an excellent man, and it's such a deep consideration. It's so mind warping. I'm with you though. I can grasp what you're saying. I can get a basic grasp on it. But imagine trying to express that to somebody in your family or something, or a close loved one. That's it's mad beyond reckoning. But I mean, certain questions arise, and ultimately, is there a fixed reality? Independent of the observer. I mean, in other words, we all share the same fixed external reality, or is there this translation or transition between knowledge, I guess, understanding,
the actual objective reality? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Are we entered into a system where, because we are greater than the system, it's like a holodeck or something. We were always meant to be able to see through, and I actually think it's a very integral part of things, especially according to the Gospel of Thomas. I only read 5 sayings last time. I have to learn more, but the overall thread for me is understanding that the external is and the internal are part and parcel. You can't separate the both. So what you said there sort of rings true in a certain way in that light. But it's very interesting, man, and you're very well spoken and you're very well informed as well. And I think in this arena, and I'm not going to hang on. I'm going to cut it short now, very shortly, man, because they've limited down the number of hours. I'd definitely like to come on for another chat, and maybe I'll bring on a more formal presentation or something to present to you, especially when I talk about this repeating pattern on the moon. I have definitely a few instances that I could bring to light. But yeah, in regards to the greater topic here, this is where we're at, and I will say to anyone, it's a bitter pill to swallow to realize that most of your own side is put in play here and in this arena, and a lot of your own progress will and can only be made by you putting different pieces together, and needs must we all go on separate pathways. Ultimately, hopefully, all our pathways combine, and the truth shines true, and that's fascinating stuff for consideration, man. It really is. It really is, because I think it's along the lines, and I do especially think because we are greater than the material, we have ventured into this realm to be able to, piece things together, no matter how fantastical it sounds.
I've got one more thing to show you, Pete, before I could do a running off as well, because I want to have a smoke, to be honest with you. I've just got one more thing to show you. So right now you should be looking at the moon on my screen. Yeah. It's not a great image, but it will do. If I just click this thing here, then there we go. So that's a crop circle from 20. I think it was 2012. This one, yeah, it was 2012. This crop circle, and if I just switch over between the moon and this image, you might possibly be able to see. Hold on. Can I rotate it a little bit? Oh, I can't rotate it in gradients. That's the nearest best match I can find. But if you have a good look at that crop circle there, you may very well be able to see that there is actually a match. So there's something around about there, I'd say. And no, sorry, not there. Yeah. You've spoken about Clavius a few times. You've spoken about Crater Clavius with the sort of Fibonacci spiral of dots.
That's what it reminded me of. I was wondering.
Right, well,
that's what it reminded me of.
That Clavius crater with that Fibonacci spiral of blobs of light. Well, I've heard you mention a few times that you see that same pattern everywhere, all over the moon. Well, yeah, spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on. Spot on. I couldn't agree with you any more on that. Well, if you're very, very patient and you zoom out a little bit when you're familiar with that pattern and you look closely at the moon, what you see is you see white parts of the moon are white, are glowing. Parts of the moon are dark and are not glowing. Black blobs, I call them. There's a Proclus over there on the far right of the moon with that pink spot in front of it. But there's also directly in the center of the moon, like going through the actual middle itself. This whole thing can be understood as a big combination of black blobs in the middle of the moon. And if you're very patient and you're willing to decode all of these black blobs into a coherent pattern, then that's what you end up with. And it was a crop circle on the year 2012.
That is mad. That is mad.
It is mad.
Looking at the moon, looking at your image in the moon here, something already jumps out at me, and this is the threefold repetition of, see the rabbit ears here. As you rotate that around, that's repeated at the bottom blob as well, and it's also repeated at the top, but it doesn't look that way. But anyway, I just want to show Crater Clavius to people if they haven't seen it, because that's what it reminded me of. And it's this ever spiraling pattern. What it reduces down to or up to, well, so you can see my screen, and once again 2.88. As we look, this is the way it appears. This is the way I'm normally used to seeing it. As we look at that ever decreasing spiral, all of these craters for me are one crater. This is just a bigger magnification of it here. This is a smaller version of it, but it's from a slightly different perspective. And that's why we see the different variations. But you can easily see the spiral and pattern ever downwards. And that's what I mentioned with Aristarchus as well earlier on. If you looked at it in the correct way, not that one, this one. If you looked at it in the correct, not that one. If you looked at it in the, here we go, yeah. This way, if you look at it in the correct manner, which is, this is the way it's generally presented here, like this. That you seem to be looking into a distended crater, and again, this is based on prior information as well. So that sort of ties in with what you talk about, and it's like our preconceived ideas are ingrained, usually via the word and of course the associated picture as well, and then you enter the reality of perceiving these things with this bias, and that then crafts your reality in that sense. But that's always prone to shattering, I guess, when the light of the truth comes on. And whatever these things are, whatever's causing these patterns, there's no denying their persistent nature. And once again, let me just say, you'll swear, anyone listening here, you'll swear that, that's an ever spiraling downward pattern here, but you will also
so how many blobs has this guy got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this guy's got more blobs than my Clavius. Yeah, my Clavius has got 3 blobs over here. It's actually very difficult to capture Clavius. You need a whole stack of filters just to make Clavius visible. I've got a whole bunch of telescopes here. Not even one of them can see Clavius as anything other than a round blob devoid of content. You actually need to slap at least one actual pretty heavy filter on your telescope, before you can even see Clavius, which is quite interesting.
Right. And I've spoken
as
about
you-
this. Yeah, I've spoken about this in regards to this image. You know, this is coming from NASA or somebody. How valid is this image? How representative of reality? For me, it sort of doesn't matter. You know, I mean, if you wanted to focus on and put the time into taking these extended images, I don't know how they got last guy produced that image of Clavius. I presume it's close enough to reality because it can be verified. And the guy, I think, if I remember, was a fairly prestigious photographer. But the point I settle on is it's close enough to reality. There's a greater decoding to be had, you know, rather than just focusing on the authenticity of the image itself. Because you know, anything coming from NASA is going to be tainted to some degree or other. So if you know what I mean by that. But let me just say, just to point out, using this image, I don't know how genuine it is, or you know, it's just anyway.
It looks pretty bloody good to me, mate.
Yeah, it's I can't remember his name. If you're looking for his name, I'll look it up. Actually, I want to look now because I have a load of links, but I have it there somewhere. Someone like Thomas Peach or something like that. But anyway, let me just say, as we look at the moon, it rotates pretty much 180 degrees in our sky as we track it from east to west. And as we do the same with this rotated 180 degrees. Now, be Jesus, you'd swear that this spiraling is going in the opposite direction. But everything's going in the opposite. So this is what I'm
That's
talking about.
So clever, isn't it?
It's all illusion. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying about Alice in Wonderland as well. The looking glass it's not just a magnifying glass, but of course it is a mirror as well. Mirror sky is a brilliant. Missing pieces is a brilliant. Oh man, you hang on, just especially YouTube by Day. Hang on a second before I go. Let me just bring this up for you for consideration, because you know what I've been talking about all along. Okay, missing piece. So this is from 2001. First of all, we have Talk as well, which is the TT. But here we go with the Dodo. I showed this the last time. Remember seeing this the last time? With the Dodo Earth image.
No, I missed that one. No, I've never seen that one before. Hold on a second. Someone in chat says I've got some feedback over at my end.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't know what to do about it.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I was just to say that this is Missing Pieces from 2001 by the British band Toto. But here we have the Dodo Earth, front and center. But I just wanted to say about how the rest of the songs point to the same. The Dodo, obviously, if you listen to the story, the Dodo leads to Aristarchus. So the Dodo is the changing face of the land, post-destruction of the tree of life. Track number 1 is after the flood. So this is when the flood happened, when the supporting tree was cut and the barrier collapsed and we had an inundation. Here's a great one, Mirror Man. Before Mirror was the gift that one of the 3 wise men brought to the young Christ, as the story goes, which is it's a resin from a special tree and just some sort of a heliotrope oil or tincture. But yeah, Balthazar was the one of the 3 wise men who brought the gift of myrrh. And the 3 wise men are 3 astrologers, so relating to the reading of the stars. And well, lo and behold, before Aristarchus was called Greater Aristarchus on the moon, it was called Greater Balthazar. So a little clear, but the next one then, new grass, so a new beginning, new setting. Song number 4, Stump, a tree stump, right? I was just I couldn't believe it. Someone posted this link and I knew nothing about it. And this is from 2001 with songs dating from, would you believe, 1991 and 1988. So anyway, number 4, Stump. That's what the Dodo represents to me. It's the changing face of the land as it juts up above the invading waters. It's fundamentally the stump of the divided tree of life. And finally, on number 5, Ascension Day. That's what it's been all about. up to and including these times, which is 2020. So I just thought, if you hadn't seen that, isn't that for me? That was amazing confirmation in the sense that I'm definitely on the right path, right? And just when I say Paul McCartney is the dodo, Paul McCartney is the dodo, Michael Jackson is the dodo, Tom York is the dodo. I'm not writing the story. I'm not writing it. I'm just reading it, and stuff like this just blows. Look, there we go. Released 2001, 1990, 1991. I think there was also a song listed from 1988. Here we go, yeah, 1988. But anyway, that was just a by the way. But yeah, very interesting, man. I have to. It takes so much time, though. I don't know what area to. I know that if you sit down and delve into this, you can spend years doing it. You know, and at the end of the day, who you're trying to prove anything to. For me, myself, if I get a general gist, then I'll sort of move on because I know there's a greater pieces in the puzzle. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm on my own in most of the stuff that I have to say. So that's all. I'm okay with that. I think these formats have been given to us for us to share information. And well, I always say you never know when you're going to pick up your next piece of the puzzle, your next clue. So unless you've anything more to say, 2.88, I'm going to say thanks very much for tuning in, man. It's been a pleasure. Honestly, you're great.
So I've got one thing for you before you go. So
on the 12th of December, I managed to break my low-profile keyboard whilst playing Phoenix from Megadodo Software.
Phoenix from Megadodo Software.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah, well, I've been noticing it all over the place, right? All these little Dodo references. So I've recorded a couple of them for you. Yeah, Phoenix by Megadodo Software. A great video game called Phoenix by Megadodo Software. So Adrian in chat, next time you're talking about Phoenix, that's a direct connection to the Dodo right there.
And someone reminded me today that the dodo was said to be 3 feet 3 inches tall, and that's fucking hilarious because of the 3 and the 3 and the 8. But yeah, listen, Adrian is in chat as well. I didn't. Yeah, I was just sort of having an open little think and talk about what I thought about pi. I'll put a little bit more thought into it. I'll definitely have to do that and make a little bit more coherent presentation. But it's been great to have you on, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Cheers, you too, Pete. It's been splendid.
You've thrown out some excellent ideas here.
That's my little thing for you. Just once more, I'll just put it on screen again. Pulse of the Universe, Harmonic 2.88 by Bruce Cathy. I'll catch you later, Zena. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks a lot, Brad. Thanks a lot. And yeah, it's been a great chat as well. Excellent. Some great things to consider here. And Jesus, my mind is going to be buzzing. But ultimately, I think we're getting back to that connection between this immaterial and material self, and what a greater role in all of this is. And yeah, Jesus, that's deep stuff. Man. That's deep stuff. Ultimately, I hold we can change the universe if we change our frequency, if we alter our perceptions, if we come to understand our true settings, our true natures. Anything is possible. The sky's the limit. It really is. So yeah, I usually leave you with a song, but it's definitely getting late here. I hope I have enough time now to start a new hang-up, because even if you've only 10 minutes left, you can go over and you can pay back the next time. So it's been great having 2.88 mile mushroom on. I'm not used to conversing, and especially on sort of deep levels like that. So lots of stuff has been thrown. Sort of think on your feet. What do you think about this? Yeah, it's a mad world, is all I would say. And yeah, rest your tumultuous mind. I'll ask you to pay attention to the clouds, pay attention to and the repeating patterns, pay attention to the sky, the green hue. There, see it vaguely in the background. It shows up, especially when there is clouds. This is all got to do with the ether. Ether is, yeah, I'm pretty sure the ether is lightening as opposed to being more oppressive. and this is because the barrier is been reinflated. Gravity has been lessened. So that's my thoughts. Green, I've said since last year, green is the color of 2020. Green is the heart chakra, the mended heart. So yeah, I think the next biggest date is 12th month and 21st of that month. We're in the 6th of the 12th at the minute. Not long to go. Okay, friends, I'm going to thank you again for tuning in, and I'm sorry for not playing more songs. I hope you enjoyed some of the conversation, and big thanks again to 2.88 Mushroom and Mile High Mushroom, I should say. And yeah, until the next time, you take it easy, and love to all. I love you, Steve.